even if there is no.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the training session on how to redeem Microsoft Software Assurance Training Vouchers, or SATVs. We are here with Tina Travierso. She is, well, I hope pronounce the name correctly. She's our in-house expert on everything Microsoft, and she's going to take us through the session and tell us how exactly you can make use of the software assurance training vouchers that you get with every Microsoft software purchase that you make. So Tina, take it away.
Thanks so much. Yes, you did it well. Most people call me Tina T because Travierso is somewhat challenging, but Echtersheim is as well. So I've been in the training industry for 19 plus years, and I was privy to this Microsoft Software Assurance Training Voucher inception back in July of 2003. So I do have a lot of history with how to use them, how to navigate them, the why behind it, etc. So let's go through that. And this deck certainly would be available for anybody who wants it. And you've got some contact information in here as well. So simply the three things we want to get out of today's agenda is understanding the why behind software assurance training vouchers, how to redeem those vouchers, and when to redeem those vouchers. This is a slide that will be repeated at the end of this deck. Very important communications. Sometimes when you have a vendor that gives you benefits, it's somewhat difficult to navigate to a direct person or the exact department to support that need. So these are very specific and pointed resources for you with this subject of software assurance training vouchers. Obviously myself, I'm here to help you in any way I can. Navigating the tool, navigating Microsoft, navigating the benefits, but also if you are the administrator, the person who has been assigned within the tool to redeem the benefits, not just software assurance training vouchers, but other benefits, there is a 866 number. It's not an 800 number, but it is a toll-free number, 866, that is specifically intended for you. When you call this number, you will hit extension 4, then hit extension 1 to get to a live person. They're open from 7 in the morning till 7 in the evening Pacific time. And the intention is that person expects you, the receiver, the person calling, to be the SE administrator, because the first thing they're going to ask you is, what's your agreement number? Which, you know, quite frankly, most people wouldn't have. But if you are the SE administrator, they can look you up secondarily by your email, by your phone, by your company name. But they would expect that you would be the person in charge of those benefits. Another resource are 2 emails. So should you or anybody on your staff have questions about the benefits, what's included, what you have, here are 2 other emails that you could utilize. And the last one actually is if you were curious to know who your Microsoft field rep is. The Microsoft team has done a very good job with identifying multiple people to accounts to support your strategy, your technology, whatever it is that you're trying to achieve with these benefits. If you do not have a Microsoft field rep, this email alias certainly would let you know that. But in accounts that are 500 employees or 500 PCs or more, certainly 2,000 PCs or more, you absolutely would have a Microsoft field rep. So if you were curious to know who that was, to work with them on strategy and other benefits. So this slide will appear again at the end of this deck, but these are very specific resources for you to get right to the subject matter expert on the subject of software assurance training vouchers. We did a poll to understand who was on the call today. You can see on the left, these are some of the titles. And if I were to summarize them in 3 different buckets, this is who I see that's on the call today. And I would say that the majority of people on this call, the systems administrator, those who are responsible for that specific task within your tool is probably who's going to benefit from this particular presentation. And then you can see the others as well. End users, the software assurance training vouchers really were intended for technical developers and IT staff and professionals, not necessarily the end users. It's not to say these vouchers couldn't be used for them if it wasn't a customized format, but that's fair. That's pretty rare. All right. Microsoft is notorious for acronyms. So this is a bit of a decoder, if you will. If you were to go online and look up the Microsoft Acronym Dictionary, or MAD, which is appropriate, you will be brought to the Microsoft Store and they will have you check out the product. It is a dynamic link because their acronyms change all the time. So for them to produce something that sits on your desktop or that's a PDF, it's probably going to be moot once a month. So this is something, if you are curious to know what some of these acronyms mean, go here, go to the Microsoft Store, download this, and it would be a dynamic link that you then can look the acronyms up. But for today's purpose, these are some of the popular ones we're going to talk about. SATV, quite frankly, it's the benefit. It's a software assurance training voucher benefit. Plainly, in your agreement, your enterprise agreement, you have multiple benefits. This is a high profile benefit intended for training. Microsoft will pay a training, authorized training provider to deliver the training for you as an organization as part of the benefits of the agreement that you purchased. The SA administrator is the person who takes on the task within that tool. And the VLSC is the tool. It's the portal. It's the SA administrator going online to a link, that's the VLSC, which then gets them into their benefits electronically. That stands for Volume Licensing Service Center. And again, not just the training benefits, but there's a concierge, there's a home rights use, there's all kinds of benefits within your agreement. And this particular portal is where you start the process. This benefit exists because of an EA. An EA is an enterprise agreement. This is a top tier agreement that has many benefits within it. Software assurance training vouchers are but one. So we often call it, do you have SATVs within your EA? An MCP simply is a technical test. It stands for Microsoft Certified Professional, and it's just to differentiate between a technical test and an end user test. The software assurance training vouchers actually are eligible for an MCP test or tests. You obviously need multiple tests to obtain certification, so it could be plural. And that actually is a fairly new benefit. They used to only allow software assurance training vouchers to be applied towards technical training, but they now have opened it up within the last 2 years to allow those vouchers to be redeemed for a technical test. An LSP, this is simply a partner. Microsoft works within an ecosystem of partners. They do a phenomenal job in navigating the partners. But an LSP is specifically a licensing partner. They are the entity that most likely sold your organization your enterprise agreement, which has the software assurance training vouchers within them. And there's another partner community called a VAR. They're a value-added reseller. They too have the ability to sell licensing, but it's not their main forte per se. They're more in hardware, networking products, et cetera, but they do have the ability to sell software assurance training vouchers. The LSP community, though, that is their primary focus. So getting through some of these acronyms as we'll talk through this deck. Identifying what is and what isn't. The software assurance training vouchers are eligible for technical official courses within the Microsoft suite. It is available for exam vouchers. And of course, if you have multiple exam vouchers on your path to getting a certification test, then there's obviously plural there. What they're not by default eligible for are end user training, such as Excel, Word, PowerPoint, any hands-on labs, any clinics. This is all intended for a technical experience. This deck represents the community of the LSPs that sold you your agreement. So they probably look familiar, and where you see wedding rings means that PC Mall has purchased OnPoint, whereas Software One has purchased CompuCon. But OnPoint and CompuCon have still market brand recognition in the market. So if you were to hear CompuCon, know that you're probably going to be directed to somebody at Software One, or that their email domain is Software One. But this is it. These are your LSPs in the market who would have touched the process of your licensing agreement in some form or fashion. This is a grid of an example of the current agreements that could have been sold to you and the benefits within that agreement. So if you look on the top tier row here, of all of these benefits, a select license using SAM or an open value license using SAM are something that a VAR could have sold to you. And SAM is a software asset management tool, identifying what you do have in inventory and what you need. So those potentially can have vouchers within them, but guaranteed an enterprise agreement or an EA has software assurance training vouchers within that agreement. When you then look at this grid, I kind of call it 7-11. There's 7 possible agreements with 11 possible benefits. You can see the checklists of benefits that come within an enterprise agreement. It's fully loaded. So these are the other products and tools that the SA administrator would have access to within the VLSC tool. For the purpose of today's discussion, what we're talking about is the bottom, which is the software assurance training vouchers. That's what we're talking about today. Often people within universities ask, do we have software assurance training vouchers? And my answer is most likely you do not. However, do absolutely explore if you do or do not by calling that phone number, that 866 number with Microsoft, just to confirm. But it's most likely you don't. But again, don't default my words, go for it and ask Microsoft to confirm. Let's talk about the why behind the vouchers. The voucher started July of 2003. And what Microsoft was experiencing, as well as the LSPs, is that they would sell a package to an organization, but that organization would not deploy the software. So legacy systems were not necessarily working properly with the new software, or they didn't launch the new software at all because of the legacy. And the individual teams within a department of an IT department, if they didn't know how to use the new product, they were most likely not going to launch it regardless. So then fast forward 18 months later, 2 years later, 3 years later, whatever the length of your enterprise agreement was, and Microsoft comes back to you to talk about the newest technology, or the LSP comes back to you to talk about the newest software. If you didn't launch the previous, it's just a domino effect. So it was created because it was an Achilles heel with Microsoft, because the organizations were not launching the software to which they purchased. So sales and efficiency. The idea was, let's do something to support them, the accessibility, the ease, to get them to launch, to load and launch the software. All right. I did want to talk about some thoughts when starting the process about using your software assurance training vouchers. It is the same thing when somebody says, well, how do I get to my vouchers? How do I access my vouchers? It is the same process of saying, here's a blank check. I don't think in society there's a place for anybody to say, here's a blank check. You really want to know, well, what's the intention of the check? Who's it supposed to be made to? How much would it be made out for? And it's the same concept. You really want to understand why before you start to administer those SATVs. So in the first step, I guess I would ask from an internal perspective as an organization, why are you about to launch those software assurance training vouchers? Is it simply for knowledge exchange because there's company benefits for your employees? It's part of your retention strategy. Is it because you have cloud or a new product that's about to launch and you need a team to be knowledgeable on said subject, so it's project-based? Is it because you're in a certain space or category within the industry that has a requirement of X amount of people on staff to hold certain certifications? So is it certification driven? So I guess that's the first question, right? Think about it. They shouldn't be administered willy-nilly, but what's the reasoning? The second step I think you would want to go through as an organization is that your leadership team or the department heads or the managers somehow engage with the students and have some understanding as how they would like their class, this benefit to be delivered. Is it an in-person experience? Is it an online live delivery? Is it on demand? Is it group? Is it customized? Is it e-learning? All of this exists and more. So the question then becomes, is the student prepared and do they understand what they need to succeed? And the third step is to identify the training partner. There are perhaps, I don't know, I'm guessing here 300 training partners within the US, and you have to identify if you have a relationship with one, if it's working out, if it makes sense. This is our solution, obviously a seamless plug I wanted to present, but these three thoughts need to come in mind when starting the process of assigning vouchers. With our solution, we have satisfied all the questions in the second column. We do deliver online live, and we do have on demand, and we do have group customized, and we do have e-learning. We do have one-on-one mentor for support. And our solution might not be like anybody else's solution, but this is my example of the thought process you would need to go through in assigning SATVs. All right. This is a summary of what would be expected within the VLSC tool. Remember, the VLSC tool is the Volume Licensing Service Center. It's the portal that the SA administrator enters in order to start the process of assigning the vouchers. The top two tasks are what you as an SA administrator would do. Or if you're a student, this is what your administrator would do, and you need to go to task and go find those the vouchers once it's been done, once this task has been done. And once it's been done, the bottom two steps, step 3 and 4, is what we as a training partner, as a training company, would then require. So as an SA administrator, you go into the VLSC tool, you're going to activate the benefits. Quite frankly, it's like turning on the lights when you enter a room. It's submitting your email and then clicking a couple buttons. And then you will go to the space or go through the steps where you will start to assign the vouchers. Vouchers are always one voucher, but they represent X amount of days. So if the class is a 5-day class, you would not give us 5 vouchers. You would give us 1 voucher. And when the SA administrator went into the VLSC tool, he or she used a pick list and chose 5 days. So always one voucher, and it represents X amount of days, and it's done at the level of the SA administrator within the VLSC tool at the second step. Vouchers are always 8 digits. They're an alphanumeric combination. There is no rhyme or reason as to if it's alpha, if it's numeric, or how they combine those, but it's an alphanumeric 8-digit combination. And that's the created voucher that then is administered to us as a training partner. We then, having understood who the student is and the class and the start date, take that voucher and reserve it with intention of payment after the class has been delivered. And what we need is that voucher number the student or employee's name and email, that class date, and of course the start date, and we can obviously figure out the end. It really, in a summary, is as simple as that. So administrator does the top two, and then us as a gold managed training provider would take that voucher and do the bottom two steps. I have on many occasions had an SA administrator not find the time to assign the vouchers, whether they're traveling, whether they are assigned to multiple teams. It is an administrative task. And so we, as a training partner or your LSP or licensing solutions partner, we have the ability to be associated with your agreement for the sole purpose of doing that administrative task and assigning those vouchers. I think it's a great benefit because we can't do anything within your tool without your permission. And once we go in the tool, all we're doing is assigning the pick list, days, person, days, person, days, person. And again, if you have multiple days, 300 days, 400 days, that is a lot of admin. So do consider using us as your backup for this particular task. It's innocent, it's harmless, and it probably saves you 20, if not 2 hours, if you were to go into the tool and do so. These are the steps to which that could be accomplished. All right, now in the audit process, Microsoft is in a position where they will pay us if these three things are accomplished. One, the student must open the electronic book. So in the process of getting the voucher, assigning the class, the person, them getting a confirmation, there is a step where the student will get a link to open up their book. That book does need to be opened in order for Microsoft to do an audit process to say, okay, I see the student, I see the voucher number, I see the class, I see they have the correct book, and they've opened it. Two is that the student must finish 51% of the class. So if you have a 5-day class and you gave us a voucher, and this is extremely rare, but you didn't do any research on the prerequisite of the class or your skill set against the class, and if for whatever reason you're in class day 1, day 2, and you decide it's not the right class for you, and you don't attend the remaining days, well, guess what? Then that means you owe us retail for the class because Microsoft no longer is going to pay for it. Excuse me. And then, of course, QuickStart submits an invoice. So these three steps will assure that Microsoft is participating in the experience, and then that they pay us and there's no out-of-pocket money from you as an organization. The next slides, I am not going to spend a lot of time on. You will get this deck, but what it's doing, it's showing you a visual of what you need to do within the VLSC tool and where to go. This is what it looks like. So it's asking you your email and your password, and then it's saying your registration ID, accept. Again, this is simplicity of just starting the process, turning on the key, the car, opening up the door, turning on the lights, updating any information if your name changed, if your email domains have changed, if your company organization has changed, accepting terms, and then continuing. So once that's done, I think the entry process will be less steps, but you do need to go through this initially in order to get where you need to go. There's a welcome screen. It's information to read. You can see on the left menu, you see Software Assurance Benefits Administration. Okay. So how do we administer? So setting up the user, this is if you were to make us a administrator. Okay, so again, I'm not going to go through these in detail. The last 3 slides, actually, I will show you where there's a pick list where you can identify the student, the class, and how many days are required in order to continue. Software Assured Administrator. Okay, so You can see the menu, the layout, your dashboard, if you will. This is defaults. You can see the benefits that are in there, the Tech Net Plus, the Tech Plus subscription media, the training vouchers are at the bottom, could be an alpha sort when looking at this. You can see home use program. This is a very valuable landing page for you. It identifies in one clean picture all the benefits that you have. If you do not understand the depth of these benefits, I highly suggest that you call your software assurance, your licensing solutions partner, the software ones and the CDWs, et cetera, and have them do a demo. Ask for who your account manager is and have them do a demo for you. They're going to be the most proficient in going in depth with all of these benefits. That is their job. They sold this product to you. If you were to get in touch with your Microsoft field rep, they might not be able to even go into depth for all of these particular areas, simply because their responsibility is not necessarily to know all the details within these benefits. So your LSP certainly would. I highly recommend that you get your leadership team or those responsible for this benefit in a room and have that LSP do a presentation for you. Okay. So when choosing the person to take the class, you need to know a person, you need to know their email. It is very specific to a person's email because, again, the ebook, the electronic book is going to be audited against them. So this is just identifying the student, your employee, activating benefits. This is telling you in a summary how many total software assurance training vouchers you have. And obviously going to the right, it tells you, has anything been administered? Has anything been redeemed? Has anything been paid for? So the far left basically is the balance that hasn't been used. So in creating your voucher, create training voucher. And in this example, it shows 30. So you can see it's pretty voucher days right there. There's your pick list. This is where it's going to say, well, how long is the class? Not how many vouchers do you need, because it's always one voucher. So if Jane Doe, if Michael Moore is going to class and it's an Exchange class or a Windows class or an Azure class, those are typically 5 days. So here the administrator would pick 5, meaning it's a 5-day experience, and then create the voucher. They can put special notes in right there. It says take course 2151. That's the SKU number. They could put information in there as to the day they're taking it or the organization, or if it's live or if it's whatever. That is a free range essay space for the essay administrator for their notes. And then the vouchers created. You can see up here, there's an 8-digit alphanumeric code. It says voucher number. That's the number that we would need in order to start our process. So Microsoft would pay us. You'll always see it's voucher days. So this could say 1, it could say 4, it could say 5, voucher days, not how many vouchers, but voucher days. It talks about when that particular voucher expires. They do allow up to 6 months for the student to complete a course. And that is different from when your agreement expires. So I have seen many days, lots of dollars go by the wayside because the essay administrator was not organized, didn't administer these to students quick enough, fast enough, and their agreement expired. And once the agreement expires, that's it, game off. Microsoft will not do anything to appease the situation because they feel training partners such as yourself, as well as your partner, that's the LSP, we're doing lots of communication to make sure that you're aware of it. So please do be aware of it. Please do assign soon and quick and fast. But this is the key of what would be administered. So this would be in an email to that student. So Jane Doe in her email would receive this kind of visual, and this number is what the training partner would need. You could, as an essay administrator, go in the tool and find a summary report and send that to the training partner as well. And that would be sufficient. So here again is a repeat of the how to, the when to, the why to, the support, the benefits, the features. These are resources that will help educate you as to what you have and how to use them. At this point, I don't have anything else to administer or to share with you. This deck will be shared with those who have signed up. And if there's anything we can do to help and support the process, please do. These are wonderful benefits, and too many companies do not administer them simply because they forgot, they were not prioritized, they felt that they had enough time in order to do so. And I have seen it many, many times that it's a great benefit, should not be lost because of those reasons. So reach out to us, let us help you, and make sure that your staff is prepared and has you have great experiences internally. Etisham, at this point, I am done. If there's anything else you'd like to say, please do so, but we can stop the presentation at this time.
All right, so I see that some people joined us later on in the session. Don't worry, we'll send out the deck and the recorded version. In fact, the recorded version of this training session to everyone who signed up for it. Thank you very much, Tina, and we look forward to the next session.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.